that strikes me as something that's really inspiring about what you did, is that you were going through your own healing at the same time as trying to do healing for the world.
There is so much healing to do, right? And I was completely oblivious that I needed healing. I needed to really peel back some of those layers. I think for people that tune into racing, you mentioned earlier on, but when we arrive, everything's set up. There is work that we're doing in the background that naturally people don't see. They just see a show. But there is an unbelievable amount of work that goes on in the background. When I talk to people that talk about how much weight you lose, they're like, yo, you just sit in the car and you drive. There's this huge psychological and emotional roller coaster that you're going through that it would be really hard for people to comprehend. And you would mention about all these other athletes, you see their faces in other sports, you can't see because we've got a helmet on, but you go through this roller coaster ride in the race and then you get out and the camera's right in your face. You're not prepared for that. Your emotions are shot, particularly if you failed or feel like you failed. And you don't always answer the right way. If you wear your heart on your sleeve, people don't necessarily like that necessarily always. People take advantage of that. So then you build up all these protection mechanisms that's not necessarily you at the core, but what be the safest thing for you. You know what I mean? Like, I read something the other day about there's like 3 steps of you, and there's one of which you present who you present. Then there's you and who you are to you and your family and friends. And then there's the part of you, the real you, that no one ever gets to see. And I think just today, in today's world, it's so vicious on social media. The media can be, can really tear you apart. Mm-hmm. And you build up, like when you make a mistake in something you say in the media and you're ridiculed for it, you never do it again. So you build up and you go more and more in your shell and you become harder for people to really relate to. But I think for me, what I've realized in these last few years is really peeling back those layers and, letting people know that I grew up in a council estate. I've lived on the sofa with my parents. We've had those struggles. The successful people out there you see, they too have had those things where we need to show the young kids who are going through that same thing that, if he can get there or they can get there, then it must be possible for me too.
Yeah.
And like showing your vulnerability, that's something that I really struggled to do for a long time. And like today, that's something I think I'm a lot more open than I've ever been.
Yeah.
I'm not living in fear every day. And that's like the most empowering thing, I think, for me personally. I'm living a much happier life because I'm a lot more open.
Yeah, it's liberating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's liberating when you finally feel like you're not trapped or you're not being held or hiding. My
favorite quote is from Maya Angelou when she said, "We are all powerful beyond measure." Mm. And that really hit home also for me. That's my favorite quote and I have it tattooed, because really we do limit ourselves. We get in our own way, right? Along with the other things that get in our way. But a lot of our fear stops us from driving forwards, from progressing. And that's why I do the craziest things. I jump out of planes.
Yeah, you've done what, 80 jumps in your life?
I love challenging myself and doing things even though there's maybe fear there, but overcoming that fear is it's the best feeling when you overcome it and you realize that it was all just a bunch of nonsense in your head. I want to encourage. So with my friends, I'm like, hey, let's go and do this today. They're like, are you crazy? My dad, I think as a kid, my dad was like, is he really my son? Because I wouldn't do any of these things. And even still today, I still find that, and he's actually done skydiving with me, my dad actually. Yeah. He said he would never do it, but he did it. So.
But driving 200 miles per hour is probably one of the scariest things that you do all the time. Like that's
for
not
people,
for you anymore.
No,
but as in,
things I never had that fear.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was just never. I think if you go on a ski slope and you see these kids coming by, the kids are generally fearless, right?
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, you hurt yourself a little bit, you start protecting yourself more and more. But I just don't have that. I think I feel like that was something that just wasn't necessarily put in me. Yeah. I'm terrified of spiders.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But when I'm doing 200 miles an hour, that's actually when I'm most at peace, I would say.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like flowing. That's my element. And that's why I love doing what I do. It's going to be really, really hard when I stop racing. I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm 37. I've been racing. 30 years, and when you stop, like what's gonna match that? Nothing's gonna ever probably match being in the stadium or being at the race and being at the pinnacle of the sport, being at the front of the grid or coming through the grid. That emotion that I get there when I do stop, there'll be a big hole.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to generally focus on find things that are going to replace that are also going to be just as rewarding. And that's like mission 44 for me. Meeting kids at schools, having these conversations with families and parents who clearly are going through difficult times and want to create the best opportunity for their kids, encouraging them that, like, okay, I've been there too. Look where I got, so you can get there. It's just, you got to work through it. That's for me, that's way more rewarding than winning the race.
Yeah.
So much more.